Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Hey, my name is King, or as some of you might know me better, Israel. I've gotten around, but hopefully you recognize me from my own channel, King Tannic. There's a new show coming to the Burnettwork that I think is pretty exciting. Welcome to the Otaku Experience, hosted by yours truly. There is going to be a weekly series where we dive into the news and the world of anime, manga, and whatever the heck else Japan has to offer us. The show will be pre-recorded and premiere on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Burnettwork YouTube channel.
The study of law is something new and unfamiliar to most of you, unlike any schooling you've ever been through before. We use the Socratic method here. I call on you, ask you a question, and you answer it. Why don't I just give you a lecture? Because through my questions, you learn to teach yourselves. Through this method of questioning, answering, we seek to develop in you the ability to analyze that vast complex of facts that constitute the relationships of members within a given society. Questioning and answering. At times, you may feel that you have found the correct answer. I assure you that this is a total delusion on your part. You will never find the correct, absolute, and final answer. In my classroom, there is always another question to follow your answer. Yes, you're on a treadmill. My little questions spin the tumblers of your mind. You're on an operating table. My little questions are the fingers probing your brain. We do brain surgery here. You teach yourselves the law, but I train your mind. You come in here with a skull full of mush, and you leave thinking like a lawyer.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your evangelist of the imagination, as John Campea called me once, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am Robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the post-geek singularity community. This is Robservations, episode 839. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls, however you identify across these, the 28 known galaxies, well, another Star Trek show's coming our way. A Star Trek show that they've been trying to make, well, actually, Harv Bennett first wanted to make it after Star Trek V back in 1989. But the idea of Starfleet Academy is not a new one. There's been video games. There's been comic books. William Shatner wrote a novel called Starfleet Academy, or just Academy Collision Course, with the Reeves-Stevens. Shatner wrote 10 Star Trek novels with the Reeves-Stevens, and actually many of them are quite good. Collision Course was the last one they wrote together. They were going to do a sequel to it, but unfortunately, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 09, written by Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orci, came along and put the kibosh on that. And what did we see in Star Trek 09? We saw Starfleet Academy. And it was pretty bad. If you watch the deleted scenes of Star Trek 09, everyone remembers the Kobayashi Maru test in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Well, we find out in Star Trek 09, if you have the physical media and watch the deleted scenes, Kirk did not reprogram the simulator and make it possible to win, to rescue the ship. No, he seduced a woman and had her reprogram the simulator. Thankfully, they cut that out, but you can see it on the deleted scenes. The important thing is that that's a scene that Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi wrote and J.J. Abrams shot. So now we're getting the next Star Trek series, which is Starfleet Academy. Once again, another example how they are grabbing at straws, trying to change Star Trek into something that it isn't. Now, here's the thing about, I understand the appeal from a filmmaking standpoint, from a television standpoint. You see, stories about high school and college, they've been with us for a long time. Let me just list a few. Here's some great movies that you might remember about high school and college. Shall we begin? The Breakfast Club, Mean Girls, Clueless, Dazed and Confused, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 10 Things I Hate About You, Heathers, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, American Graffiti, Easy A, Super Bad, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Rushmore, Napoleon Dynamite, She's All That, Election, 16 Candles, The Edge of 17, Lady Bird, Booksmart, Bring It On, Footloose, Can't Hardly Wait, Dead Poet Society, Friday Night Lights, The Social Network, Good Will Hunting, Animal House, Old School, Legally Blonde, Pitch Perfect, 21, The House Bunny, Revenge of the Nerds, Accepted, Van Wilder, Road Trip, The Graduate, The Paper Chase, which I showed you a clip from, Mona Lisa Smile, The Great Debaters, A Beautiful Mind, Blue is the Warmest Color, all right, Love and Basketball, St. Elmo's Fire, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, The Intern, Wonder Boys, Gross Point Blank, and the Bret Easton Ellis adaptation, The Rules of Attraction. I would throw Less Than Zero into there too. Now, here's 50 great television shows about high school and college. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Beverly Hills 90210, Dawson's Creek, Glee, Saved by the Bell, The Old Sea, Freaks and Geeks, Friday Night Lights, Veronica Mars, My So-Called Life, 13 Reasons Why, One Tree Hill, The Vampire Diaries, Gilmore Girls, Pretty Little Liars, Skins, Riverdale, Degrassi, The Next Generation, The Secret Life of the Teenager, Awkward, The Carrie Diaries, Undeclared, Popular, Gossip Girl, Boy Meets World, Felicity, Community, A Different World, Greek, Big Bang Theory, Scrubs, How to Get Away with Murder, New Girl, The Mindy Project, Faking It, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Dear White People, The Magicians, The L Word, Generation Q, Insecure, Orange is the New Black, Masters of Sex, Undeclared, The Bold Type, Superstore, Greek, Silicon Valley, AP Bio, The Good Place, The Umbrella Academy, Vampire Diaries, and on and on and on. Why did I read all those to you? Because it just shows that, stories about high school and college remain popular. Why? Because they're easy to do. Because what you get to do is you focus on the characters. It's inherently a soap opera, and everybody understands what goes on in those stories. I mean, one thing I didn't add, School Ties. I loved School Ties. I watched that with Brendan Fraser recently. That dealt with anti-Semitism. You can transpose any story you want, and it also means that most Hollywood screenwriters, most TV writers, can work in the milieu because they don't have to specialize. It's a very generic way to tell any kind of story you want about youth. You see, one of the great things about Star Trek is that it was about the people that had already graduated, the people that were already the best of the best, the people that were seasoned professionals. They had life experience. Captain Kirk, when he was promoted to the Enterprise captain, he was 34 years old. He was the youngest captain in the fleet, but he had still been serving on Starfleet vessels for the better part of a decade and a half. He knew his stuff. And when I was 5 years old, I watched Star Trek because I wanted to grow up and be those people. I didn't want to see myself reflected in those people. I wanted to see people that I could one day, perhaps maybe, if I was lucky and worked hard enough, that I could become. Well, there has been a concerted effort since 2009, what I like to call the beginning of the great Star Trek hostage crisis, when they have tried, first of all, for those of you who don't understand or aren't keeping track at home, Star Trek, while very popular, was still pretty much a niche show. It barely survived 3 seasons originally on TV from 1966 to 1969. It did have 22 episodes of an animated series. It almost didn't get past its first movie. Star Trek didn't really become incredibly popular in the mainstream until the 90s. You could arguably say that when Next Generation went off the air in 1994, Star Trek was at its most popular. It was on the cover of Time magazine. Generations was on the cover of Time magazine in 1994 because, as I call you, my lovely audience, you are the post-geek singularity. The geek singularity happened. And all of our geeky interests, our nerdy interests, our imagination connoisseur interests went mainstream. So did Star Trek. The problem is, Star Trek is not Star Wars. Star Trek is not Transformers. Star Trek is not Harry Potter. Although, can you see the pitch? It's going to be Harry Potter, but in space. The thing is, Star Trek never connected to worldwide audiences the way, say, Harry Potter did. So there has been a pernicious and I would say rather unsuccessful attempt to make Star Trek more appealing the way Star Wars is appealing. And the thing is, it really can't be done because unless you do one horrible thing, which they have been doing, they decided somewhere along the line, especially in Star Trek Discovery, which I could, make an argument that Star Trek Discovery might be not only the worst Star Trek TV series, but one of the worst science fiction television shows ever made, because it is much more interested in, as Alex Kurtzman said, addressing messages of today and letting the audience recognize themselves in the characters. Look, that's me. I'm Tilly. Which I really don't understand. I've never read fiction because I wanted to see myself reflected back at me. I've never watched television shows or movies because I wanted to see myself reflected back. For that, I can go look in a mirror. The thing about storytelling, the thing about the shows that we have, the thing about our entertainments that we watch is, look, I understand in Star Wars, and I say this a lot, when you see those twin setting suns of Tatooine going down and Luke is there looking at his maybe no future at all, but maybe he's going to spend the rest of his life farming moisture out of desert air. And you hear the mournful French horns of John Williams playing. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. We've all been there. We all get it. But the thing about Star Trek was, even at 5, when I started watching it religiously, it was about possibilities. It was about where could I go? Where could I take my life? Where could I wind up maybe someday? The problem now is what they're also going to do. One of the most really shitty things about Star Trek Discovery is, of course, we know they jumped forward 700-800 years in the future. So they're in the 32nd century now, 31st, 32nd. Doesn't really matter. The problem is they've shown us 1,000 years from now the most unimaginative future I can possibly imagine. And they haven't, what would humanity, it would be like, can you imagine if you lived 1,000 years ago and you had TV and you were watching a show about kids going to high school today and you lived 1,000 years ago? I mean, it would be relatively incomprehensible to you. See, the very premise of a Starfleet Academy series that takes place 1,000 years from now is already a failure of the imagination because they're going to make it look and feel like all of the other shows, all the other movies that I already addressed. They have to, because otherwise we wouldn't recognize them. And as a matter of fact, let's read this little announcement that was in the Hollywood Reporter. Let me just jump over here, and it's very interesting how they bill this show, how they are talking about what it's going to be. So, Paramount orders diverse, teen-focused Starfleet Academy series. What's funny about this is, are teens focused on Star Trek? Not many. I know that as growing up a Star Trek fan, I didn't have a lot of teen friends that were interested in Star Trek. And the whole idea of Star Trek is about watching adults who are the best of the best, the elite, going off into the final frontier and conquering it. But this show is about teenagers, which in my mind, there's nothing wrong with shows about teenagers, but with all the other shows about teenagers on the air and all the other shows that I read you the titles of, is Star Trek going to be the one? See, the funny thing about it is, the thing that Star Trek doesn't have, well, let me read this article to you, because this was in the Hollywood Reporter yesterday. The drama will follow the blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, and first loves of a new class of Starfleet cadets who are as young as 16. Now, I don't know about you, but for allegorical sci-fi action adventure, blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, and first loves of a new class of Starfleet cadets, man, that screams Star Trek for me. After more than a year in development, remember, so for all of you people that are going, see, Rob, your support of Terry Metalis' Star Trek Picard Season 3 led to this. No, they announced this was in active development of February 2022. There was an article about this. So let me read. After more than a year in development, Paramount Plus has greenlit Star Trek Starfleet Academy, plus released a description of the show. The new series description and quote below from the showrunner seems to hint at a more soapy YA Trek than the other shows, as well as increased diversity, which, given this is the world of Star Trek, could refer to species diversity as well. Starfleet Academy will introduce us to a young group of cadets who come together to pursue a common dream of hope and optimism. Under the watchful and demanding eyes of their instructors, they will discover what it takes to become Starfleet officers as they navigate blossoming friendships, exploding rivalries, first loves, I didn't mean to do that, or that. First loves and a new enemy that threatens both the Academy and the Federation itself. Noga Landau, who is the showrunner of Nancy Drew. Because, I know Aaron Cummings is on Nancy Drew, so more power to Nancy Drew. But Noga Landau, who has worked on shows like C and the great Tom Swift, will serve as the co-showrunner and executive producer, along with franchise chief Alex Kurtzman. The OC executive producers Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz's production company was originally attached to the project. Because of course it was. Admission is now open to Starfleet Academy, Kurtzman and Landau said in a joint recruitment-like statement. Explore the galaxy, captain your destiny. For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals a minimum of 16 Earth years or species equivalent who dream of exceeding their physical, mental, and spiritual limits, who value friendship, camaraderie, honor, and devotion to a cause greater than themselves. Their coursework will be rigorous, and instructors among the brightest lights in their respective fields, and those accepted will live and study side by side with the most diverse population of students ever admitted. Today, we encourage all who share our dreams, goals, and values to join a new generation of visionary cadets as they take their first steps toward creating a bright future for all of us. Apply today. That is the most Orwellian. I feel like I'm going to go to school being taught by Ibrahim Kendi. I mean, it's give me a break. Give me a break. See, again, what I find monumentally frustrating about modern Star Trek is it's all about today. Let's make it, what would Starfleet Academy be 1,000 years in the future? Why are they speaking to us like we are going to Starfleet Academy? It sounds like it's a new Starfleet Academy, or Star Trek Starfleet Academy, the new attraction at Paramount Parks, wherever. This is why modern Star Trek bothers me so much. There is no real imagination here, and there is no sense of the future. There is no sense of wonder. There's no sense of science fiction. What they're trying to do is give us a generic CW-esque show. Look, the clip I showed at the beginning of this show was from a movie called The Paper Chase. John Houseman, who gives a stellar performance, won the Academy Award for playing that professor. And if you look at some of the great movies about mentors, teachers, students, we all know what they are. This show is not going to be that. This show, since when Gene Roddenberry would be rolling in his grave, he never wanted a Starfleet Academy series. And there was a reason for that. Because Star Trek was never supposed to be about, see, once again, what you're doing is you put all the importance on young people that are going to grow up to be the people that are in Star Trek Discovery who are already rather incompetent, not good at their jobs. And that's what they're offering us. They're offering us an unimaginative, hey, look, by the way, I will watch it. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to watch this because I watch all the Star Trek that comes out. But in a way, I would say what they were doing with Prodigy is already more interesting than what they would do with the Starfleet Academy show. Because do I really want to watch Starfleet cadets fall in love with one another? Have I not been able to see that in 1,000 other movies and television shows that have come before this? How is this show going to be different than any other show about college or high school? And the question is, it won't be. It's not going to be any different. It might have a Star Trek patina, painted over the top of it, but it's still going to be. And why is that? Because it's easy to write for these people. You don't have to know science fiction. Because you can always fall back to the classic moral and ethical dilemmas that we've seen in every high school movie, every college movie that has ever existed. Anybody can write this show. And part of the problem that they've had, modern Star Trek has had, and yes, in Strange New Worlds as well, they don't know how to write science fiction. They can write generic relationship claptrap. They can have Captain Pike cook for his insubordinate crew, which doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Why he's fraternizing with the people he fraternizes with, I'll never know. Lack of military discipline. I'm sure in today's world, we don't even respect our teachers. Students go to college and they protest their own teachers. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of that. A lot of that indoctrination speech that they're going to give a lot of to us. We're never going to see where the teachers know best and the students listen and learn. You're never going to get that from this show. Already, camaraderie, honor, and a devotion to a cause greater than themselves. You mean the party? This sounds strangely odd, this statement. And I'm like, this is how you want to announce your Star Trek show? The move follows a slew of major decisions at Paramount Plus concerning the future of its TV franchise, such as ending Picard, which is on its third and final season. By the way, by design. All of these things are by design. Discovery was always going to end at season 5. It's lucky it made it that far. Picard was always going to end after season 3. Strange New Worlds will probably end at season 3 unless the ratings go through the roof, which I doubt. Lower Decks and Prodigy, those are animated shows. Their multiple seasons were greenlit before we heard about it. How do I know that? Because I worked on an animated series for Netflix, Dota Dragon's Blood, which you can watch. I edited 24 episodes of that show. It was greenlit for 3 seasons from the get-go. Of course, we couldn't say that. We had to wait. But it was already greenlit for 3 seasons. So all of this is claptrap. We're excited to introduce Star Trek fans to a whole new generation of Starfleet officers in training as they navigate the rigors of the Academy and the brink of adulthood. Why does anyone want to think that Star Trek should be about this? It's generic. I mean, hey, I get it. It's Harry Potter in space. It's Hogwarts in space. But they've dealt with Starfleet Academy a number of times, all the way back to when we met Finnegan, Kirk's nemesis at the Academy. We heard about his time at the Academy. Star Trek The Next Generation, the first season, had an episode called Coming of Age, where Wesley takes a test to get into the Academy. Then we had a great episode of Star Trek The Next Generation from the 5th season called The First Duty that I used my thumbnail for. And that's where Robert Duncan McNeil was introduced as Nick Locarno, who was supposed to be in Voyager, but they just repurposed the actor and his name and the character because they didn't want to pay the rights, which I understand. To use Nick Locarno, I get it. I totally get it. But it's too bad they didn't. So we got Tom Paris, a.k.a. Nick Locarno. The Academy has been glimpsed before in Trek productions over the years, such as in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009. It will be a while before fans get to see the new show, however, as Starfleet Academy doesn't start production until 2024. See, to me, this is another example of Star Trek being taken away from its roots. Out on the final frontier, seeking out new life and new civilizations, boldly going where no one has gone before. The Star Trek franchise is not boldly going anywhere. Star Trek Discovery, they never really discovered anything. Strange New Worlds, the last episode of the first season, was a retread of Balance of Terror, one of the greatest episodes from the original Star Trek's 1966-67 season. Even that whole show is a prequel So is Discovery. And I think that Starfleet Academy is the latest in a long line since 2009 of nails in the Star Trek coffin. And I really don't know that why, of all the shows they could make, Starfleet Academy, which is the easiest, most generic, and also, then you have an extra added problem where it's called Star Trek, but now you're saddling everybody with being at Starfleet Academy. Everyone who watches the show is going to be like, let's get to it, man. When are we going to get into space? Your own premise is fighting against the franchise that it's from. And I'll tell you something. The writing in this is not going to be The Paper Chase. The writing in this is not going to be The Graduate. It's going to be the generic TV writing that we've been getting from so many of these writers for so long. And I, for one, am very disappointed that this is the direction. Once again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. God taketh and God giveth and God taketh away. And I look at this and I just shake my head and I wonder, why is it that we have such, there's a reason why streamers are not making the kind of money they hope to make. There's a reason why Hollywood movies are failing. Because even these franchises, the way they're controlled, the way people go about, what we need are characters like Vince Gilligan writing shows like this. Give us Breaking Bad and the sequel series Better Call Saul. I want Star Trek that's that caliber. Give me, and I'm not saying I want a crime thriller in the Star Trek universe, although I'll tell you, if somebody decided to make a movie about the rise of Kryn, the Vulcan crime boss that we've met in Picard Season 3, give me that show. When Kryn talks about, utopia, we need crime, or utopia gives way to crime, and that criminal enterprise can be logical, give me that show. We've never seen that show before. Give me a show that is quintessentially Star Trek. Starfleet Academy could be the Umbrella Academy, could be Hogwarts, could be Friday Night Lights, could be any, how many shows have we seen with people in school? And what's really interesting is your target audience is watching less and less and less television anyway. The funny thing about these genre shows that make a lot of money, that have a big following, whether it's The Last of Us or House of the Dragon on HBO, is that they are getting the adult audience, the people that tune into this stuff. The target audience for a Star Trek Starfleet Academy show isn't watching Star Trek. They're not watching this kind of thing. And if they are watching it, it better be damn good. But I haven't seen any indication, other than Star Trek Picard Season 3, that there's a writing staff capable of pulling off a Star Trek Starfleet Academy series that's worth watching. I guarantee you, any science fiction concepts that they touch upon, if Discovery is any indication, just won't work. Now, I'm willing to tune in. I am. But of all the Star Trek shows that they could make, of everything they can do, all they've done is gone backwards. Star Trek Lower Decks, as funny as it might be, seems like everybody who is on that show is just watching Star Trek. I think it was Steve. Was it Steve Shives? Is that his name? He said that one of the things he can't stand about Lower Decks is it seems like everybody in the show are just a bunch of Star Trek fans sitting around talking about Star Trek. It doesn't work unto itself. And I love that. I love that Star Trek fans are, we all genre, horror, sci-fi fans. We love our humor. We love our comedy. But not like this. And again, this show, the idea of a Star Trek Starfleet Academy show, goes back over 3 decades. And there's a reason why, not until now, what's the easiest way we can come up with a Star Trek show? Let's go back to one of the oldest ideas in the world, an idea that's been floated since the late 80s. Sure, let's go back and do that. Yeah. I look at this and I think, what an amazing failure of imagination. You could literally do anything you want. And if you're Secret Hideout and you hold the keys to the kingdom, why not do something groundbreaking? Why not do something fiercely original with Star Trek? Why not take the series in a direction nobody expects? But you know what? They don't have the brain trust capable of doing so. They just don't. And, people might say, well, Rob, what about all this stuff with Terry Metalis and Star Trek Picard Season 3? Hey, it's great. Terry Matalas was given he was given a room to fill the way he wanted to fill it, and he did a fantastic job doing so. He did something. Remember, though, he inherited a show that was in its third season that basically had been abandoned by the people that created it. Alex Kurtzman went off to do his sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth. Akiva Goldsman went to go do Strange New Worlds, which is, let's face it, the Vegas nightclub act version of Star Trek. It's got all the glitz, it's got all the girls, it's got a handsome leading man and beautiful sets with all that great lighting. I mean, come on, man. Don't you expect when you watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds that they should be either wearing roller skates or ice skates, and the thing should just... Where's the musical episode of that? I hear they're doing one. Where do we go from here? The battle's won, we kind of won, we'll shed our victory tear. Why not? Just if it would not surprise me if they had Damien Chazelle come in to do a whole season of Strange New Worlds, because that show looks like it's a Vegas show. It looks like you're in the Celine Dion Theater at Caesars watching that version of Star Trek. No credibility, no verisimilitude. I don't believe a shred of that show. But hey, I went to Vegas and I got to watch this version of Star Trek. It's fantastic. I love it. Actually, no, it's not true. I don't like it. And what can I say? Look, I'm going to watch this show. I'm going to watch this show and be like, you know what? Wow. This is going to make me long. And I have often said, by the way, full disclosure, Friday Night Lights, the TV series, is one of my favorite TV series of all time. And I've often said that if there was a high school sports-oriented show in the Star Trek universe, Friday Night Lights is very Star Trekian in a way. Now, I would love it if they could make a Star Trek Starfleet Academy show kind of like that. But they're not going to. Because, hey, they're going to concentrate on all the soap opera elements. They're going to make sure that we have a wildly diverse cast. I mean, first of all, it's set 1,000 years from now. The problem is the characters that we're going to watch are going to be very contemporary. Why? Because there's no other way to do it. The failure of imagination, the 30th century, the 31st century, the 32nd century, the future in Discovery is one of the most disappointing futures ever portrayed on film. And there's no sense that 1,000 years went by at all, which is unfortunate. So let me tell you, Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, there's been comics, there's been games, there's been books, which, by the way, they're probably going to go pilfer storylines from, so good on them. It's not like they haven't been doing it already. Ursula K. Le Guin, oh yeah, those who walk away from Umlaus, let's steal from there. Alex Kurtzman will even go on and talk about it. But do they credit her on the episode? No. Let's take Una's backstory, Rebecca Romaine's backstory. We'll just lift the whole thing from Dorothy Fontana's Star Trek novel, Vulcan's Glory. Do you give Dorothy Fontana credit? No. We don't have to. We already own it. She still wrote that book. The concepts came from her. How about Story By? Is that going to kill you to do that? Why not? I mean, you're only writing 10 episodes a season. You can do better. Anyway, Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. What a monumental disappointment. What a crushing waste of imagination and of a franchise. Gosh, you couldn't come up with anything different. You couldn't come up with an idea that wasn't kicking around for over 30 years, that hadn't been portrayed in film and television before. Is that what Star Trek fans want? Is that what the IP holders want? A Starfleet Academy series? Yeah, man, Hogwarts Legacy. I can see the computer game right now. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. Very, very disappointing. Very disappointed. But anyway, you all knew I was going to say this. This is not something that you didn't expect me to say. I know. Let's see. I got some super chats flowing in. And let's see what you all have to say. Dustin Cole says that I forgot Porky's. Well, my list was by no means definitive. I also forgot The Last American Virgin, Porky's, Over the Edge with Matt Dillon. Hey man, if Starfleet Academy turned out to be like Over the Edge, did I mention The Outsiders and Rumblefish? There's so many teen films that I forgot, but I mean, I would watch the S.E. Hinton version of Star Trek. Give me that. Give me Star Trek Rumblefish. I'm like, all right, Alex Kurtzman, good for you. Good for you. Trekulations became a member of the channel. Thank you, Trekulations. You are a PGS hero. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Joe Panora says, what about Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School? I trust Rodney's ghost running Star Trek over Kurtzman. By the way, I love Back to School. And guess who's in? You know who's in Back to School, right? Dax herself, Terry Farrell. That's right. I bet you forgot that. She is. Dax is in Back to School. The great Keith Gordon is in it, who later went on to direct another great high school movie, The Chocolate War, based on the book by Robert Cormier. So there you go. Well, there it sits. Culture Wars Diplomacy, who I've met now. How are you? I've always wanted to be Worf. Yeah, you wanted to grow up and be Worf as he is now, not as he was at Starfleet Academy. Jeremy Fontaine has become a member of the channel. Thank you, Jeremy Fontaine. I appreciate that. RTNZ says, Hail Bob, how about a top 5 Trek episodes debate between you and Dave Cullen, moderated by the drinker? Come on, mate, boldly go for it. Well, heck, I would definitely do that. And I would just like to say that I am starting, now that I've got more time to work on the channel, rather than just live streams, I'm going to be doing Robservations each and every day. I know, right? You're excited. I'm going to start doing shows, RMBs 10 and 20. And that is going to be lists of 10 things in 20 minutes that I break down. And people have always asked me, you know, Rob, Star Trek is a very intimidating franchise. There's hundreds of episodes. There's 13 movies. How do I get into it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through every season of Star Trek and give you 10 episodes to watch. Now, it's not going to be definitive because 10 episodes, there's more than 10 episodes a season to watch, but it's going to be a breakdown. It's going to be, if you have only wanted to dip your fingers into Star Trek, these are 10 episodes per season. I'm going to do it on a season-by-season basis that you can watch and be up to speed. That also means that, yeah, if you want to watch more, there's going to be a lot more great stuff there. And I'm also, at the end of every episode, going to add more to say these are also definitive. But for a basic understanding of the franchise, here's the episodes you need to watch. Look for that to drop in the next couple weeks. The first episode for the 66-67 season of the original. And look, I would love to, I think Dave Cullen and I were of a same mind. I think Dave and I would have the same episodes, probably. There'd be very few I think we would differ on. Son of John says, when I was a teen, I went to a private high school, and within the demographics of about 500 students, only 2 to 3 within the population avidly watched the original series. Today, most teens are watching TikTok. Yeah, I mean, here's the inherent problem too. Is teenagers, look, to be fans of drama, to be fans of narrative, is to look outside yourselves, much like it is looking out to the stars. Nowadays, and this is not necessarily a criticism, but with TikTok and flipping, everyone has stuff that they're interested brought into them. Even video games, you're the protagonist. So modern entertainment is making everyone, and I get it, they want to see themselves. They are the protagonists of their own narratives. Well, that's not what Star Trek is about. Star Trek is directed, it was created to say to the audience, look at what we can be, not who we are. It's what we can eventually become. Star Trek also never told you what to think. Reading what this show is about sounds like some propaganda, mind control, hive mind. You better believe in what we're gonna tell you what to believe, how to believe, the way to believe. Look, as I've said before on the show, and other people before me have said, Star Trek never told you how to think. It offered you things to think about. That's very different. And I'll tell you, modern Star Trek, man, the activism, and look, being an activist is great. It's great. But you know what? Not at the expense of character's story and your narrative. And as I've said, the Burnett Law, it started out with never put your universe before your characters and story. Well, that holds true for political agendas or ideologies. Never put your ideologies, never put your agendas before your characters and your story, because you will always compromise your characters and your stories. And that's part of the reason I can't stand modern Star Trek, except Picard Season 3, which I think is a very interesting and effectively drawn portrayal of what happens to our favorite characters. The Next Generation characters were essentially written as archetypes. What Terry Matalas and his crew of great writers have done is they've turned them into real people. The conversations our favorite characters from TNG are having in Picard Season 3, they feel like they're actually really fully developed, well-drawn characters for maybe the first time. And you don't have to agree with me, but that is my assessment of it, and that's why I love the show. Because I feel we're getting real characters. And that's really interesting, Son of John. And that's something people need to remember. You know? Trev Maddock became a new member of the channel. Thanks, Trev Maddock. I appreciate that. Brian Evans sent in a super chat for some support. Thank you, Brian. I very much appreciate that. Our friends over at the Echo Base Network. If that's Nick or Coach or both of you, do you think Picard Season 3 will be a one-off good trek during the reign of Kurtzman Trek? Yes. Yeah, because here's the thing. The people, look, you've got the showrunner of Nancy Drew coming over to create a generic, I'm going to school, I'm going to college show. Do you think that she's going to be interested in the science fiction Star Trekian elements of it all? No. She's going to be interested in the human relationships, the first loves, the rivalries, everything that makes such great drama when we're in high school and college. Because God knows that's why I watch Star Trek. I mean, why not hire a science fiction writer, somebody who's adept at writing genre fiction? Although she has worked on a number of genre shows. But they're not really very high-minded. But hey, maybe they'll be good. Hope springs eternal. I can condemn the idea and think it's stupid and think it's off-brand and think the whole thing is silly. However, I'll admit to you here right now, live on this stream, I'm going to tune in. I've been watching Star Trek my whole life. And I will watch. I will watch, even if I'm disappointed. Because here's the thing. When it comes to Star Trek, I consider myself somewhat of a scholar. I mean, I've had professional jobs 3 times in my life where my knowledge of Star Trek has got me paid very, very well as a creator and as a consultant. So it's the one little subject matter I want to keep sharp on. It's just become so painful since 2009, up until this season of Picard, which I have been loving. Sir Larry of D. CBS is obsessed with keeping, the woke activist crowd. Yeah, you know, and here's the thing. Here's another thing. As I said, activism, I have no problem with. Social justice, Star Trek has always been interested in things like equality, justice for all, goodwill to men and all aliens. It's always been there. However, it's used those things allegorically. The original series took place in the 23rd century. They're 1,000 years from now. The problem is they haven't created a credible future 1,000 years from now. Everybody talks like they're of today. The people they met 1,000 years from now just seem like normal people. I mean, the great thing about science fiction that I love so much is you have to like take our technology now. I mean, they have evil AIs running around in the 24th and 25th century. I mean, talk about a failure of imagination. That's something we're obsessed by today. We had evil AI computers back in 1970, Colossus, the Forbin Project. In the original series of Star Trek, how many malevolent computers did Kirk talk to death? Well, not as many as you might think, but whether it was Landru subjugating the entire society on that planet, or whether it was the video game computer systems they were using in A Taste of Armageddon to fight their wars, or if it was Nomad, you know, the product of an alien probe colliding with an Earth probe and creating Nomad, Tanru creating this thing, and Kirk had to talk that thing down. The M5 computer. We were dealing with the fear of technology in 57 years ago when Star Trek debuted, and they haven't gotten past that. Where's our technology going to be in 1,000 years? Where's humanity going to be in 1,000 years? That's what Star Trek should be concerning itself with. But instead, no, We're still talking pronouns 1,000 years from now. Failure of the imagination. I mean, talk about a landing with a thud. Not so good. Not so good. But yeah, the activist crowd. By the way, first of all, in Star Trek, human beings are marrying other species of off-world people. I mean, you want to be an activist and all that, that's fine, but human beings are marrying a different species of people. I would say that's fairly progressive. And when you're talking, when there's no allegory involved, and you're just complaining about what you want to be called 1,000 years from now, I'll tell you something, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care in 50 years or 25 years. Things will change. Humanity marches on. But where's the extrapolation on where mankind's going to be 1,000 years from now? Certainly not in the show. It's your just generic future. It's really disappointing. And it's really unimaginative, and it's a bummer. Science Beat with a 10-pound super chat and says, Mum was a huge Star Trek fan. She joined the Navy, loved everything to do with history, and to her, the Enterprise was what exploration could be in the future. And Kirk reminded her of a Horatio Hornblower character. That's exactly right. That's what Gene Roddenberry wanted your mom to take away from that. And that's what, for instance, that's why Nicholas Meyer was able to make Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, as good as he made it, because he went back to something like Horatio Hornblower and understood what Roddenberry was trying to do. Terry Matalas has created a Tom Clancy techno thriller in Star Trek Picard Season 3. It's Hunt for Red October meets Crimson Tide. I mean, that's what it is. And I think they did a great job. And I'm a big fan of that paradigm. And so that explains why I partially love what he's done so much, is because it feels like a Tom Clancy techno thriller. And I'm there for it. I love it. Echo Base Network says, looking forward to you and Doomcock being on the same page again with Trek after Picard Season 3. Laugh out loud. P.S. Put in a good word on getting us sponsorship. Oh, I will definitely do that. Got to get sponsorship, man. That's what we need. That's what we all need. Doomed, huh? Says, why would they spin Starfleet Academy off of Discovery? I don't know. First of all, why make a Starfleet Academy show if it's not surrounded by the Star Trek iconography we already know? And you've already got Prodigy and you've already got Lower Decks, which is so, like, if you're going to make a Starfleet Academy show, wouldn't you want to be able to have your characters, like, show up animated on Lower Decks? Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds are doing a crossover in the second season. For real. And you'd think that they would want to have some synergy there. I don't know. I don't know what about their godforsaken, unimaginative 31st century is so appealing to anybody. It's not appealing to me. Anubis Genocide said, hi, Rob. Totally agree with you on the faults of Star Trek Discovery, but I will admit I did like the plot line of Species 10C. Wish the series leaned into that more rather than the interpersonal relationships. Anubis Genocide, that is a very good point. And look, I'm willing to say something about favorable about Star Trek Discovery. That idea of Species 10C was pretty fascinating. They just didn't have the right people writing it or the people understanding. They went for a big sci-fi concept. They did. You know, a little bit of Jeff Vandermeer in there, a little bit of Peter Watts in there. They just didn't know how to pull it off. And that's what I mean. It's a monster bummer that they couldn't have made that show better. I really wish they could have. Because look, I watch every episode of Star Trek with my fingers crossed. Please be good. Please be good. Please be good. I do. And when it isn't, I'm like, oh, man. But I will say this, Anubis Genocide, credit where credit is due. I thought the Species 10C plotline was really interesting. It was just horribly executed. And it could have been good. What they needed was people who've written science fiction to understand how to make it good. It was like somebody read some BuzzFeed article about interesting sci-fi concepts from sci-fi books, or somebody went and watched one of my favorite YouTube channels, Quinn's Ideas. By the way, if you want to watch a good YouTube channel and you're a fan of science fiction literature, science fiction, fantasy, horror, cosmic horror, go subscribe to Quinn's Ideas. It's a great YouTube channel. I watch it religiously and watch all of his videos about the three-body problem, and then know that the Chinese adaptation of that series is currently on the Tencent channel on YouTube for free. So if you want to watch, now look, as I say to go watch this, there are things about it, such as some of the music choices and the sort of Baroque way in which the story unfolds. You have to understand it's a Chinese TV series, so there's things you're going to have to get used to. But if you want to watch what I think is some of the most compelling science fiction available right now, hard science fiction that's based on a literary work that won the Hugo Award, run on over to the... And by the way, I know I'm not advocating, Xi Jinping and all of his people, but the Chinese have some great stuff and great narrative. And they actually, a couple of years back, they had a mandate after the time, like the first Wandering Earth came out, that they were going to actively try and make more science fiction. I haven't seen much that's great, but I will say this. I really enjoyed, it's 30 episodes long. It's free on the Tencent channel on YouTube. It's just called Three Body. The book it's based on, The Remembrance of Earth's Past. It's the Three Body Problem, the Dark Forest, and Death's End. Great trilogy of books. Hard sci-fi. Check it out. But the show is really interesting. It does move sort of at a more glacial pace than you're used to, but it's definitely worth the ride. So check that out. Dave says, more R&B? Well, you got me. What's not to love? Well, I don't know. I think there's a lot to love. Probably too much. I should get less of me to love. But I'd love to see you host a weekly roundtable live stream, open bar type show. Stay tuned. Well, we do have every Friday night, Lael Rockwell and RM, we do Midnight Musings. But in terms of a roundtable show, there is something in the works. There is a show in the works. It's going to be a roundtable show. It's going to be exciting. The problem is, who do I want to be on that show? Who do I want to recruit for it? I've got to get a strike team. I got to get my Dirty Dozen. I got to get my A team. I got to get my Expendables. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're not expendable. I need my strike team, the same strike team that went down to the moon of Endor. I'm with you too. So there you go. Tom Jr. Jackson, our great moderator. Tom Jr. Jackson does a great job moderating. You know what, Tom? I think I forgot to thank you and Justin Toner for the Picard After Show last night. But I'm thanking you now. Tom Jr. Jackson coined the phrase, we're all goof people. And he was right. Tom Jr. Jackson says, Rob, my brother, how you doing? I'm doing well. I've started rewatching Benson, the 60s Avengers show, Monk, and Eureka. See you at the member call. You're not going to be on Midnight Musings tonight? Member call will be fun, though. Yeah, those are all good shows. For those of you who don't know, there was a show in the 60s called The Avengers. John Steed and Emma Peel. If you've never seen it, it's pretty great. 200 Watt Studio says, Rob, if you review Starfleet Academy, please use the Tilly Yum Yum scale. How many Yum Yums out of 10? Well, there is that thing. I love my redheads. But Tilly, she's going to be a series regular teaching those kids. The thing is, I'd much rather have John Houseman as a professor than Tilly. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that says about me. Bert says, when is the next episode of Midnight Musings? Tonight in 7 hours. Oh, no, it's 9 o'clock, so it's almost 5 o'clock. In 4 hours. 4 hours. It's going to be in 4 hours. Brian Singleton says, Star Trek Parisi Squares. I need my real truck. I'd do that. Then you can have father-son games of Parisi Squares. It'd be great. Why not? It'd be awesome. 200 Watt Studio says, you missed my first super chat above Echo Base Networks. I did. Let me see. Oh, Echo Base Net. You are right. 200 Watt Studio says, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. My Paramount Plus subscription gets canceled April 21st after the final episode of Picard. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that churn. Absolutely. I'll be curious to hear what you think. So, yeah. So I hope I got to that. I think a lot of people are going to cancel too. Although I have to say, I do like the Tyler Sheridan Yellowstone shows. Yeah. Shane Xavier became a new member of the channel. Shane, thank you. And is that a Jonathan Hickman X for his X-Men run? It looks like it to me, but my failing eyesight, who knows? I love that run. And you know what? I just got a Magneto. Just got a Magneto. An Ian McKellen Magneto. And oh my gosh, Chris Sad sends in a $50 super chat just to support. Chris Sad, I'm no longer sad. Thank you for that. That's very nice of you. Very nice. Are you related to Gad Sad at all? The Canadian professor? I want to thank you for that. That's very nice of you. That's very sweet. My Rhino became a member. For those of you who are new members, every other Saturday we have member calls, and they start at 11 o'clock. I'll re-update. I'll put the link up today. But so what happens is, so anybody who wants to come can come, and we hang out for hours on end, and what you do is you raise your hand, and everybody gets 7 minutes to talk. It used to be 10, but it just got too long. The last one we did lasted 7 hours, and I'll try and stay there as long as I can, at least 2 or 3 hours. But it's fun. So if you're a member, but only members can come into the chats. So they're a lot of fun, and we do broadcast them. So thank you for that, and both of you. Mickey O. Hello, Mickey O. Thank you for the support, Mickey. And King Tannic. My man King Tannic, as you know, you watched at the front of this show an ad for his show, The Otaku Experience. You know, I got to give it out. Got to give it up for King Tannic. He came to me. He said, "Look, I want to do a show on your channel." I said, "Heck yeah!" And it's an anime show. And all I said to him, I said, "Look, all I want from you is I want it to be plug and play. Give me the show. I want it to go up 2 o'clock on Thursdays. Give me the thumbnail, the description, and make it good." He's a great YouTuber, and he's got 9 episodes of that show to me on time. I don't think I've gotten 9 things on time to anybody in my life. So good on you, Israel. You're the man, and I love your show. It's great. Shane Xavier sends in a super chat, $25 super chat. Says, "Greetings, Rob. I was so sad to hear about the John Campea show, and I decided that I had to cancel that membership and move over here. It just wouldn't be the same without you anyways." Well, that's very nice of you. Yeah, I mean, look, I understand. You know, Duke Leto Atreides said to his son Paul that a person needs new experiences. This is in the David Lynch version of Dune. And I think, you know, change is always good. You don't know. John and I aren't like totally apart. I'll show up a couple times, maybe a month. I think he just wanted to take his channel back. You know, I think that he had a panel show, and it was sort of becoming less about it's after all the John Campea show. And I understand that. You know, I understand that. And we've been streaming together. April marks 8 years that we'd streamed together. So, which is crazy. Brought together by the late, great John Schnepp. Son of John said, "I became an imagination connoisseur last night." Now, when you say that, is that a euphemism? Did you become an imagination connoisseur watching the show, or did something happen? Did you have like a night, bow chicka bow wow, and you became an imagination connoisseur, which is pretty cool. For those of you who might be new to the channel, I also read letters. Part of the show is that we read letters here on Robservations, so they are coming shortly. That doesn't mean you can still send in tips and super chats if you want, but I'm just going to read some letters. We got some super chats coming in. Paul in Long Beach, our favorite comedian, the funniest guy you'll ever meet on this channel. Paul says, "Honestly, Rob, I can't wait for the newest Trek. Call me old school nihilist, but I miss the old Thursday rants. Bring them back. Stubble and I are ready." Y'all bring the rants back. I mean, now that I'm going to be pretty much exclusively coming back to the channel, but you know what? I got to step it up. I got to say, Gary Nerdrotic, he's been doing some pretty great video. He put up a video about Victoria Alonso today. Perry Chan, I think, edits videos for him. They're really stepping up their content game. I think I got to step up mine. Add more cameras here. You're going to start seeing me broadcast from other parts of the Robservatory too. So that's going to be fun. You and Stubble, I'm ready. I can't let you down. Mike Castro says, "I'm close to finishing the Trek novel Star Trek TNG crossover. That was pretty great, wasn't it? That's I have the hardcover. That's the one with Scotty and all that. Do you think Terry was inspired by the part in the book where Scotty steals the USS Yorktown from a fleet museum by installing an old Romulan cloaking device? Well, if Terry wasn't inspired, somebody is. Now, I've always said that the best of the Star Trek novels, there's so many great ideas in the best of the Star Trek novels, and I will be doing a series. Part of my 10 and 20 is going to be Star Trek novels, because Crossover is a great one. Crossover borders on too much fan service, but yeah, stealing a ship from the Fleet Museum. I mean, but these are, these ideas, they kind of percolate, and people read these books and they borrow them, and so I don't hold it against them for utilizing the same kind of thing, but somebody on the writing staff probably had read that. Maybe it was Terry himself. I wouldn't put it past him. He knows his Trek. Terry really knows his Trek. It's pretty great. Mike Castro goes on to say, also, any recommendations for Trek novels for me to start next? I didn't realize that these books are like a treasure trove of lost Star Trek episodes. I can picture them perfectly in my head. Mike, now there is a lot of less than stellar Star Trek novels, but there's a lot of great ones. One of my favorites, okay, I can tell you some of my favorite authors. If you're into the TNG, I would say the Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens are two of my favorite Star Trek novelists, and they wrote two books that I think are essential reading. One is Prime Directive, and that's an original series novel. The other is Federation, which came out around the same time that Generations came around, but it's way better. It's a meeting of Kirk and Picard. Those are both fantastic books. David Mack he writes some incredible books, but the things that I would look into is his Mirror Universe duology, Sorrows of Empire and Rise Like Lions. Those two books go together. They're incredible. They're all about the Mirror Universe. All of these books require a pretty healthy working knowledge of the shows that they're derived from, though, because they're chock-a-block full of things. David Mack also wrote the Destiny trilogy, which is it's post Dominion War, post Deep Space Nine Dominion War. 3 books, fantastic. Those books are great. Anything that Christopher Bennett has written is great. Another great writer. If you want to go back old school, Peter David's Imzadi 2 not so much, but Imzadi 1 was really, really good. Really liked those books. So those are just a few, but they're definitely good. Ross sends in a tip, or Ross, is it Ross? I guess it wouldn't be Ross. A Starfleet Academy show would work if it took place on a ship. Brilliant cadets full of potential, but dealing with maturing and personal conflict. Oh, wait, that's Star Trek 09. Never mind. Yeah, I just didn't believe it. That's the problem with modern Star Trek, is it's written at a very rudimentary level. I don't believe that I'm watching real people. The Kobayashi Maru scene, the way Chris Pine plays it, the way it's directed, I don't believe any of it. It totally misses the point of what's supposed to be happening in that scene. It doesn't make any sense. Ross goes on to say, I would have preferred the Titan have been a sister ship of the NCC 1701. U.S. World War II battleships served for 60 years after the war, so the Constitutions could have served for 150 years. The Titan could have been recommissioned during the Dominion War. How do I answer this? I don't disagree with you. It is, after all, called a Constitution 3 or Neo-Constitution class. Stay tuned. Stay tuned, Ross. That's all I can tell you. Stay tuned. See where it goes. You might have some kind of an answer there. Maybe. Not saying you will. I'm just saying maybe. Let's see. My rhino. Do you really have a rhino? Because that'd be really cool if you did. Glad you're back full time. I will say I thought you and Chris Carr had a great rapport together. Love to see her show up here once in a while. Oh, I think she's going to show up here. I do. I'm just saying. Can't promise anything right now, but stay tuned. Shane Xavier says, I totally agree with my rhino. You and Chris are so funny together. I'd pay real dollars to see her on here once in a while. I concur. I, too, would pay real dollars to see her on this channel. And you know what? Maybe I will, because I think that would be smart. Now, I got. Well, hang on. Let me get to my letters here. I do have some letters for you. And where do they go? I mean, I had them all ready to go. I had them locked and loaded. And for some reason, I've got here they are. Here are the letters. Let's see who's up first. Well, since we're on topic, this letter comes to us from Ross Trant. Kurtzman's Academy, school's out for me. Hey, Rob, greetings from the UK. Big fan of Star Trek and your movie Free Enterprise. Thank you for onboarding me for Picard Season 3 after feeling decidedly meh about 1 and 2. I heard you on your last Kurlan Neskos review with Bill that's our Picard after show, that you would be doing a longer video RE the Starfleet Academy show announcement, so I'm hoping you'd read this out as part of that Robservations. That's what I'm here for, man. Great minds think alike. Watching your shows has made me realize why I do not care for Kurtzman Trek and why I couldn't care less about the Starfleet Academy announcement. 2 big points that have resonated with me. 1, you say that moments have to be earned. And 2, am I buying and believing what is being portrayed or told to me? With Kurtzman Trek, I don't. Discovery is the worst example of this. I tried, but I was out after the first season. Characters I did not care for who exist only to push the contemporary agendas of the writers, speaking in a way not befitting of the best and acting up on a regular basis. Meh. I totally agree. I don't feel that there's any military discipline at all. The way the characters talk to one another, no verisimilitude. Hear this. My favorite film is Star Trek 3. It was the first Trek that I watched on an old VHS tape when I was 12. I'm now 41. What I love about good Trek is that there are many layers you discover as you rewatch them during different stages of your life. I couldn't agree more. I wanted to be Kirk. Me too. I still do. Me too. He was believable in his quest to help Spock at any cost. The loss of his ship and son felt earned. I learned about loyalty and friendship from this movie. I believed that he would be acting in this way. Kurtzman Trek just fires out non-sequential plot threads dressed up with VFX that just ask little of the viewer. I am not endeared to them, the characters, or their quests. Trek characters like Kirk in Star Trek 3 are inspiring and identifiable. I connect. See, you can connect with him because great fictional characters allow you to do that. They don't have to be you. You don't have to see yourself reflected in those characters. You see the characters as aspirational, people you'd want to be like. That's exactly what Star Trek is all about. I think actually that's what great fiction's all about. That's what I want from Trek. The 32nd century cadets talking about their feelings and hugging it out every week, I couldn't be less inspired. It will be a disaster now that the benchmark has been raised by Picard Season 3. It has reminded me and the fan base new and old what Star Trek actually is. Some might say I'm being romantic, as it features legacy characters and other member berries. But see, I don't think so. A member berry is like having R5-D4 show up in Mandalorian. But just because somebody from the past, or they reference something from the past, if it's, for instance, putting the cloaking device from the bird of prey, the bounty, onto the Titan, that's not a member berry. That's a clever use of the Star Trek history to add something new to the canon. And that's the way I see it anyway. Some might say I'm being romantic as it features legacy characters and other member berries. Maybe in part it helps the warmth, but it's because the characters behave and act as they should. Their performances come out of the screen and into your heart. We believe it. Kurtzman's Academy of Misfits and Insubordinates? I ain't buying it. To quote with modification from your movie Free Enterprise, young Robert to Shatner, he said that Michael Burnham was cooler than Captain Kirk. Kick the little fucker's ass. All the best to you, Rob. Hashtag Terry Trek. That comes to us from Ross Trant. Well, Ross, I'm going to give you one of my favorites. You and I, my friend, we park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I am with you 100%. This next one comes to us from Bromulus, a.k.a. Jeremy. And the subject headline is, Damn You, Rob, Damn You. Greetings, Rob. To preface this letter, let me tell you that I was born in 1990, and I grew up with the Star Wars prequels. I never watched Star Trek because, as you probably remember, well, maybe not you specifically, but growing up, you were warring instead of one series or another. Well, I never was, because Star Trek existed first. I loved Star Wars and Star Trek equally. Let me tell you, Rob, Star Wars was clearly superior. Well, I understand why you feel that way. It's okay. I stuck my nose up at the likes of the silly set-piece television show known as Star Trek. Sure, they had way more content, but it was dumb. Oh, you're pushing it. They weren't flipping around with lightsabers in their hands and using the mysterious force, which is basically just like magic. Honestly, I enjoyed the originals, but the prequels were it for me. The action scenes in the originals seemed silly to me growing up in the age of such great action movies. Wow, this is why, every generation's new. Well, now it's been over 2 years since I've heard you talk about your love of old Star Trek. But the new stuff sucked, in your opinion, and you hated the Abrams movies. I didn't mind those movies, by the way, but I don't think they were particularly great. I completely agree with your take on Anton Yelchin, and may his soul rest in peace. What a waste of such amazing talent. Then Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks. We were hit with a barrage of new shows from Star Trek, yet you said they all sucked. And I agreed. I didn't even need to see them. They weren't extensions of the J.J. Abrams stuff I'd seen, to my knowledge, and well, Star Trek just sucked. Then you saw Picard Season 3, and for about a solid year or so, I've heard nothing but praise leading up to its release. So, I bit the bullet, and I watched the first episode of Season 3, and you know what? I liked it. I was missing a ton of information, though, so here I am now at the age of 32, binge-watching Star Trek The Next Generation, trying to catch up and watch how it all ends. You broke me down, damn it, with your smooth talks of fantastic story and history and character development. I'm on the latter half of Season 3 right now. Season 3 is great, by the way, and wow, what a fantastic journey it has been. It has been such a great treat seeing actors I've watched throughout the years pop up so young. Robert Knepper, Tony Todd, and James Cromwell of current mention. My favorite character is definitely Data, followed by Geordi and a toss-up between Riker and Picard. I grew up with the absolute certainty that Star Trek was terrible. In reality, I was indoctrinated into Star Wars before I knew what indoctrination even was. Also, Star Wars is terrible currently. I now plan on watching Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Disco. Just kidding. I'll most likely wait on your 10 series for the original series, though, but that may change. No, you know what? I think for you, watching my 10 and 20 series for the original series might be beneficial. Because it is tough, because obviously it's generational. It's hard to go back and watch old Trek sometimes. Thanks, Rob. Looking forward to more of your content from Bromulus, a.k.a. Jeremy. That's a very nice letter, Jeremy. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that letter. And look, you know what? Here's the thing. It's hard. And I'll admit it. Star Trek is 57 years old this year. And when you go back and you watch the original series, 60s television, for those who've never delved into it, is very highly stylized. It's very theatrical. And Star Trek was obviously a very stage-bound show, although there's some great episodes shot on location. So I understand. I don't expect everybody to go and watch Star Trek, the original series, and be like, ugh. That's why my 10 and 20 show is going to start with the first season of the original series, and I'm going to give you 10 episodes. Actually, I'm going to give you 11 because I'm going to cheat and say the two-parter is one episode. But that's what I want to do for people. So you can get caught up, but you don't have to watch everything. You don't have to do everything. So here's another letter. And this comes to us from The Flash. Oh, this is a pretty good letter, too. The Flash writes, regarding the impact of diversity in television shows like Star Trek. Liberalism is indeed the issue, but this is often equated with the left, which is wrong. Liberals are, you're talking about classical liberalism now. Liberals are political centrists, especially in the U.S., reluctantly socially mobile, but economically stagnant. It's no wonder there are constant arguments as to who is right, as the entire movement is designed to keep discussions going while never providing any solutions. Come now. I consider myself a classical liberal. I like to find solutions. Most studio-tied Hollywood liberals are a privileged lot and are as obsessive as they are trepidatious in their output. I would definitely agree with you. This is what has affected the quality of shows overall. The opinion of the left seems to be they watch our shows but want diversity. And because they are who they are, it only means diverse in one way, as obsessively and forcibly as possible. Representation has risen across the industry because not every corner of the industry was as diverse. But because Hollywood is very liberal, it's become the only thing on the menu. That's not too far from the truth. And I would say that that's a pretty astute observation. Now, as it's an industry trend for this class of people to write about the lives of everyone else, it is being done obsessively and in the most bare-bones, frightened way possible, especially amongst Hollywood screenwriters, and in a way that ignores most other human qualities. I couldn't agree with you more. Now people's differences or have become their qualities. I mean, you know, it's funny, when I used to look at my friends, no matter what shape, size, color, creed they were, I just thought that's my friend so-and-so and use their name. Now I think to myself, even though I don't want to say it aloud, well, that's my black friend, or that's my Indian friend, or that's my female friend. I mean, I'm qualifying them now, categorizing them in my own mind. I didn't used to do that, but now I kind of do, and it's weird. And I don't, look, you know what? Martin Luther King said it best, that you shouldn't judge a man or a woman, a person by the color of their skin, but by their character, the quality of their character. That's where we should be at. But I get it. The class of people writing are the problem, with their upbringing and privileges. Screenwriters write what they know, regardless of genre. And when all you know is privilege, you have to forcibly adopt social changes as they come, unlike Roddenberry, who aimed for embracing a kind and representative future from the start. 100%. I agree with that 100%. The Flash show has gone through exactly the same thing. The show was a CW show and was always diverse. Yes, Barry Allen is a white protagonist, but the West family are entirely people of color. Cisco Ramon isn't just a Latino male, but a darker-skinned Latino male. As we saw from the reception of Roma, this was quite rare to see in Hollywood. The showrunner's eclectic background of screenwriting and theater work meant that they could cherry-pick cast members from places where it was most likely okay to be anybody. Barry's boss is Captain Singh, Caitlin Snow is part of Team Flash as a white woman, Iris, Wally, Linda Park, Hartley, Rathaway, all diverse in many ways, Eddie Thrawn and Obad Thrawn, both white characters, but like Tommy from Arrow, both destined to be killed off in the show's first season. The showrunners themselves, almost all LGBTQA+ representing, although the showrunner Eric Wallace, who is a very good friend of mine and has been for a long time, although I don't see him much at all, he's black, which is great. The show is already diverse. By the way, he's also a very talented writer and filmmaker. The new showrunner has used diversity, so they say, as the main motivator for their writing. Obviously, when the cast, writers, and showrunners for a show are already diverse, then your mission statement is going to ring a little hollow, and it has. Every character behaves fundamentally inhuman. They look diverse, sure, but they already did. They behave and talk like tweets personified. This is a scenario where things have been misused. Well, I think you're not wrong with that. And I think that's what's happening in Hollywood. But I think your assessment is actually pretty correct. I don't disagree with you. So those are good letters. I'll read another one soon, but let me catch up on let's see. Rob Aitken says, "Greetings, sir. News of the Starfleet Academy series has me perplexed. I thought the whole idea was to be out there exploring. Do you think this will be a USS Valiant or Space Cases, kids commanding? Could very well be, or a Red Squad situation. There's so many. I mean, I hope not. The problem is what they're going to find this out very quickly, that their very premise, I think a Starfleet Academy show is an impossible premise because ultimately it's Star Trek. You want to be out there in the final frontier, and by definition, what are you going to do? Follow your cadets? You're going to do like Hogwarts and be a season. A season is going to be a year in school. I don't know how they're going to do it. So, Rob, I'm with you. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I really don't. But it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think they're going to pull it off. But they have time. I mean, they've got all year to. Hopefully, they'll look. If they have to do this, and they are doing it, let's hope the writing, they spend a lot of time writing a great and compelling, give me more of a Friday Night Lights or The Paper Chase or something like that, or even Fame, the TV series Fame, something, make it good. SVS Guru says, why would Picard think they stole his body to create a duplicate to pass a DNA test when he's in a robot body now? Don't know. You're going to have to wait and see. But I will say this. There's a good reason. Thunderstone S says, it sends in a super chat. Thanks for the support. Shane Xavier says, what do you think the odds are we'll finally get another series with the Enterprise again with Terry running it? I think we are long overdue to get our prime ship back as a focus. Live long and prosper. Yep. I agree with you. But that's all I can say. And I can say, stay tuned. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if he's going to get another Star Trek show. He finished his show. He did a great job, and they haven't hired him back. So they have the showrunner from Nancy Drew. Isn't it crazy? The showrunner from Nancy Drew, who did C, who did Tom Swift, is going to end up doing the next Star Trek show. That's how TV works, my friends. Esteban Reyes says, Rob, you're the homie. Well, I try and be. I just have to get, as Eric B. and Rakim said, paid in full. But thank you for that, Esteban. I appreciate it. Benson's says, Rob, I'm watching Superman on Sunday. This was the last movie my dad took me to see at 8 years old before he died at 50. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's my turn to be the dad as I take my son to see the movie. It'll be emotional. But how cool, though, is that? How cool is it that you get to take your son to see Superman? That's just the greatest thing ever. Stormin Norman asks, can we get more of those Morning Joe type of videos you did a while back? For those of you who might be new to the channel or don't remember, when I had left the Campea show for a few months, I started doing a quick half-hour morning show called the Hollywood Half and Half, where I just went over news of the day, and I did it pretty quickly. I rifled through it, and it was fun. Storm and Norman, people have been asking me about doing that, and I think I might do that. It was fun. And people like that show. And I banged it out. It was specifically a 30-minute show, half the hour. And it was half the hour, and I was drinking coffee with half and half in it. So that's why I called it the Hollywood Half and Half. And people liked it. Maybe I should bring it back. Maybe I will. John K. says, hey, Rob, I recently heard that Shauna Benson, one of the writers on Star Trek Prodigy, might know you. And after hearing her love for sci-fi and Star Trek, it would be great to hear you two talk on the stream. First of all, truth be told, I have a little bit of a crush on Shauna Benson. Always have. But yeah, I do know her, and we have been on Starship Smackdown together. We've appeared on panels at San Diego Comic-Con. I should have her ask her to come on. Sometimes, though, I think maybe I've been a little bit sexist and misogynistic. But I think she'd come on if I asked her. She writes with her sister, and they wrote Green Arrow for DC Comics, Julie, and they're really talented writers. And so, that's actually a good idea. I think I'll reach out to her. She's great. I'm a big fan. So thanks for writing into that, John K. I appreciate that. Smell, then sing. Que sera, or no, I'm just kidding. Beyond Picard Season 3, what is your genuine outlook of Trek's future? I still think it looks pretty bleak from here. Well, here's my problem. After all these shows that, and I got to give it up for people like, I'm going to say something nice about Alex Kurtzman. He did give people like Mike McMahon, who did the hilarious Star Trek The Next Generation Season 8 Twitter feed. Mike McMahon was able to create Lower Decks from that, which is fine. And the people that over there that are doing Prodigy, I think, are doing a really great job. But it's almost like both Lower Decks is like this farcical Star Trek appreciation show. Prodigy's a lot of fun, and it gets better as it goes along. But look, what I want from Star Trek, and when I say Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, I want a very adult, and I don't mean sex and violence and F-bombs. I want a real, thoughtful, adult science fiction series that has great characters, that deals with the big concepts, that's out there exploring. You know, for instance, I'll give you an example. When I think about what Star Trek should be, I think about some of my favorite science fiction novels, more modern science fiction novels. You know, Werner Vinge's A Fire Upon the Deep, or Dan Simmons' Hyperion Cantos, or my beloved Peter Watts books, Blind Sight, or anything that Stephen Baxter, Manifold Origin, not Manifold, well, there's the Manifold trilogy, Manifold Space, Manifold Time, and Manifold Origin. That's what I want out of a Star Trek show. I just don't think that there are many writers, literally, there aren't writers that are capable of doing it. And by the way, this is not me saying I'm not capable of doing it either. You'd have to be a great writer. I mean, I could consult on something like that, but I think the real problem is we don't have the people with the writing chops to write great Star Trek. And I think that Star Trek Picard Season 3, they've done a damn great job of humanizing our characters. I don't think any of our characters, Geordi's never been better. Riker has never been better. Gates has never been better. Marina has more to do in the next couple episodes. She's never been better. The writing has allowed these characters, these actors, to really act, to really give us, because as I said, in the Next Generation, they were always archetypes. They never felt like real people. They were the characters they were on Star Trek: The Next Generation. I want somebody to write, like, to me, look, I think about movies like Master and Commander. If you haven't seen Master and Commander, that to me is a Star Trek movie. The relationship that Russell Crowe has with Paul Bettany. I feel like the Star Trek that we've been getting, starting with Star Trek 09, has been so dumbed down when it should be getting smarter. Star Trek Picard Season 3 is a lot smarter to me because it feels like a Tom Clancy techno thriller. The characters feel like adults when you have somebody like Riker talking about the grief he feels after his son Thad died and what it was like and how it made him suddenly question, I don't believe I've been around the universe and I don't believe that there's anything after all of this. And that's, you know, themes of mortality are always great to deal with aging characters. I mean, you know, people talk about this as like Wrath of Khan, but why it's more like Wrath of Khan than people think is because Kirk is questioning his mortality. You know, he's questioning the fact that he's getting older. And what does that mean? You know? And I think Star Trek Picard Season 3 has a lot of great introspection and character moments from these characters that you would expect to be doing that at this time in their lives. So smell this, then sing. I am a little a Starfleet Academy show. I never liked that idea when I first heard it in 1989, and I've liked reading about it. Like Collision Course is a fun book. The stuff we've seen, like I think The First Duty is a great episode of. Look, if they made a Starfleet Academy show that had the gravitas of the episode The First Duty, I'd be all for it. But it's not going to be that. There's nothing in their press release. You know, I don't even think they know what that episode is. You know, it's a 5th season Next Generation episode. It's the one where there's a disaster when they were showboating at the Academy and a cadet died. And Wesley is torn between his friends to cover up this accident, that they were responsible for it, or to tell the truth. And it's a fantastic... If you go and you watch, and I would say to anybody, if they have to make a Starfleet Academy show, nothing in their press release says, it's going to be about first love. I'm like, fuck you. Who cares? I don't want to watch... I mean, love's fine, but that's not what I want to watch an action-adventure, allegorical science fiction show for. First love. Get out of here with that shit. You want to make a great Starfleet Academy show? Go watch The First Duty. That should be the basis of your show. And by the way, Ensign Cito shows up in Lower Decks. Yes, there's an episode of... As a matter of fact, watch those. Do yourself a favor. You want to watch some Robert Meyer Burnett sanctioned Trek? Go watch 2 episodes of Next Generation. Even if you've never seen Next Generation, you'll get it. Watch the episode The First Duty. And don't laugh, D-U-T-Y. Come on, get your mind out of the gutter. That's a complete Lower Decks joke. And then also watch, yes, the TNG episode Lower Decks. You'll see Ensign Cito. There's a character, and it will break your heart when you get to the end. It'll only take you 90 minutes to watch both of those episodes, but you go watch The First Duty and you go watch Lower Decks. And by the way, since it's already happened, make it a triple feature. Go watch the 7th season Star Trek episode, the penultimate episode of the series. Well, if you include All Good Things, that was broken into 2 episodes. It's not the penultimate episode, but so go watch. It's a different, but it's got Ro Laren in it. Watch Preemptive Strike. So go watch, if you only want to watch 2, go watch The First Duty and then watch Lower Decks. I want to say it's Lower Decks season 7. I think it's season 7. First Duty is season 5. And then also in season 7 is Preemptive Strike. That's a totally different episode, but it's where Ro Laren was last seen. So yeah. 200 Watt Studio says the newest writer added to the writer's room of Starfleet Academy is the actress that plays Dimmler. No, isn't she's what's her face on Lower Decks? She has no writing credits. Well, Mariner is what you're talking about. Mariner. Dimmler. Maybe that wasn't a joke, or it was. That's really weird, but I understand it. Suthius says, hey, Mr. B. Thoroughly enjoying season 3 of Picard. Didn't really like seasons 1. Season 2 was better. Love the unfolding of the mystery in season 3. Oh, and it pays off. It pays off. And by the way, maybe, just maybe, if you're a Star Trek fan and you live close to, well, I'm not, this is just, call it a rumor, call it an intuition, but you might want to be on the lookout for a potential Star Trek Picard Season 3 theatrical event where you might be able to watch the last 2 episodes of the series theatrically. And which, by the way, if you could, I would certainly suggest it because they're bangers. And Terry Matalas directed both of them. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. So don't go run around and say Rob Burnett says there's going to be some theatrical event, because I don't really know. But if there was, you know, the last episode airs April 20th. So, you know, that's less than 3 weeks away. Maybe, wouldn't it be cool if? Just put it under your hat, save it for a rainy day. Wouldn't it be cool if? Maybe. They might have something along those lines, because I certainly would love to see episodes. I've seen episodes 9 and 10 3 times, but I'd certainly like to see them again. Wouldn't it be cool if they did a theatrical event? I mean, they just did one for Yellowstone. So, hey, it is also Paramount Plus. Hey, maybe they'll do that. We'll see. I don't know. Shane Xavier says, I love the morning show idea. Paramount Plus is just stupid if they let Terry go after this season. Also, ever been on Star Trek The Cruise? I'm going in 24. So it's like, you know what, Shane? I've never been on Star Trek The Cruise. I never have. I've always wanted to go. Todd Stashwick went this year and thought it was a blast. Thunderstone S says, G'day, Rob. I'll be tuning into your show more. Hope you get Chris Carr on the channel. I love watching both of you talking everything in geekdom. Well, people love Chris, no one more so than me, so I think that we will probably be doing something just like that. Science Beat says, how are you getting on with your writing? What are you reading at the moment? I agree with you in regards to Master and Commander. Writing is good. I'm actually working on, believe it or not, 2 scripts. I am. And I want to get those finished. And then I've been writing the scripts. I've actually been writing the scripts for these 10 and 20s because I want them to be focused. They have to be tightly focused, and I really want them to be 20 minutes. And if I just went extemporaneously, I would never shut up. So I've been writing scripts for those. What am I reading now? I am reading Bret Easton Ellis's new novel, The Shards. I'm a huge Bret Easton Ellis fan. I actually have all of his books right up there. Wait, can you say? You can't see them. But they're right up there. Well, no, you can't see him. But big fan. So I'm reading his new novel. I didn't, found out he wrote a new novel, and I've actually got a lot of... Cormac McCarthy has a duology that I highly recommend, different than what he's read before or written before. So check those out. Benson says, Rob, could we see Shatner in Trek one more time? Probably not, because, canonically, he's dead. I don't think so. You could bring it back one more time. But the thing about it is, he was in Generations in 1994, 29 years ago. And he just turned 92. And I still think he looks great. Could we see him one more time in Trek? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know, though. I don't know. Let's see. Connor Thorne says, hey, Rob, what is your ranking of all 13 Star Trek films? Well, okay, what is my ranking? I'd have to think about that, but I'll start. Now, my very favorite Star Trek movie, and for those of you who might not understand why, I get it, but my very favorite Star Trek movie is Star Trek The Motion Picture. And I would suggest all of you, it's on HBO Max now, go watch the new remastered version in 4K. I know people call it the slow motion picture, but watch the new version of the film. I think it's by far the most Star Trek of all the Star Trek movies. Then I would go, obviously, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Probably Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Maybe First Contact. Star Trek The Voyage Home, Star Trek Final Frontier, because I have to go all classic first, then maybe Generations, Insurrection, Nemesis, Star Trek Beyond, Star Trek 09, and at the bottom of that list, Star Trek Into Darkness, which is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It really is. Let's put people in torpedoes. Why? 1001 Johnny says, Rob, could I ask for a rest in peace for the late, great Giraudan, who died last week? He was 74 and diagnosed with cancer in 2017. He was the star of Return of Ultraman, one of the most influential sci-fi series from Japan. Cheers. Well, 101 Johnny, I couldn't ask for more than that. That's a great, great thing. Have you seen the new trailer for the new Kamen Rider? I can't wait to see that shit. The original. My favorite Kamen Rider, man, kicking some major bootay. Everybody go watch that. But that's really cool that you gave that shout out. I very much appreciate that. I am a big Ultraman fan. I grew up, I love Japanese science fiction, Ultra 7 too. I've always, watching all those shows, and slowly I've been collecting more and more of them as they've been releasing box sets on Blu-ray and stuff. So it's great to have that. Brian Kopta, I think it's Kopta, with a $30 super chat. Thank you so much. That was very nice of you. Brian asks, with so many cameos this season of Star Trek Picard, and enjoyable ones at that, I would personally pay her guest star rate to see Nana Visitor's Kira and give the Dominion storyline, it would make sense. Well, I can tell you honestly, she's not in it, but I would have too. The real problem with Star Trek Picard Season 3, it was... they had a lot of money, but it was still done for a relatively low budget. I think Terry would have loved to have had a lot more guest stars come in, even to see Bajor. But as we saw in this episode, you're dealing with a faction of changelings that is not part of the Great Link. They are not on that side of the wormhole, and they work for someone or something or some organization or some group. Who knows? But we'll find out. But yeah, I would love to. I love Nana Visitor, and she's absolutely... she's in her 60s now, and she's absolutely stunning. And I love her to death. I love her energy. She's incredible. And I'm a huge Major Kira fan. My man Jeff Yerke is here. The man, the myth, the legend. I actually heard I heard his wife's voice yesterday. He's been talking about his wife for years, and I finally heard her lovely voice. Jeff says, hey, Rob, we're enjoying Season 3 of Picard. Also, we're enjoying our new annual pass to the Criterion Channel. Deep diving into Hitchcock, Live Long and Prosper, the Yerk Man. Well, Mr. Yerke, the Criterion Channel's great. I just got my box from the Criterion sale. A lot of great stuff in there, including a 4K of Mildred Pierce. That was not on my 2023 bingo card, but I'm happy to have it. Mildred Pierce, Joan Crawford. Oh, yeah. Tucker Flynn says, Rob, You're one of my favorite pundits, commentators, critics. However you view yourself, well, I leave that up to you. That's why I get all these nicknames. Viceroy of Verisimilitude, Sommelier of Sci-Fi. I let you guys call it however you see it. However you view yourself, whatever shows you're on, I'll be tuning in. That's very nice of you. Thank you, Tucker Flynn. I'll have more time to do it. You know, one of the things I did curtail, like here's one of the things that I love, and yes, I even love Doomcock. I'm not, it's theater, man. But I like this space. One of the things that I've found about the YouTube space that I love so much is the community. You know, like I love my friends over at Midnight's Edge. I'll go stream with Gary from Nerdrotic. I was on Justin's channel yesterday, Justin's Collection, one of my favorite people on the internet who I was watching for years. You know, he's got the best hot toy collection in the world, streaming with him. And I love streaming with Lael. And tonight, for those of you who are new to the channel, we do Midnight Musings. I mean, everyone calls her RM, but I say because the way I just like saying it. So that's a really good channel. We talk a lot about Star Wars and Marvel and the state of things and action figures and all that. So tune into that. So that's all fun. So thank you. And yeah, so thank you for that. I really appreciate the kind words, Tucker. And yeah, you'll see a lot more of me. Timbula, the spider monkey, our old friend Tim. Hey, RMB, been away from the PGS for a while. Life, you know, or as Marvin the Paranoid Android would say, life. Don't talk to me about life. I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But you can't talk to me about life, Tim. Good to see you. Just wanted to drop some quatloos and let you know that you rock. Well, thank you. Hope to be around a bit more from now on. I hope so, too. I hope everything is well with you. Send us everything. You and I have always definitely parked our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. So that's good. RRTNZ says, Shatner cameo in Trek as a hologram. Make it so. Well, I can't make it so. Someone can make it so, but I can't. Good tea, nice house. Once again, every time I read that, I think about the survivors. Hey, a great episode, an unsung episode of TNG Season 3, The Survivors with the great John Anderson. Really interesting moral and ethical dilemma in that episode. Check that out. Definitely check that out. It's a great episode if you haven't seen it. Season 4 of Stranger Things was epic. I love Season 4 of Stranger Things. The episodes were long and felt like a movie. Do you know the runtime for the Picard Season 3 finale? I don't, but I think both 9 and 10 are pretty close to an hour. I think so. All I can say is they're epic. They are epic. The Joe Cronin Show. Hello, Joe. How about Picard Season 3? You were right, Rob. It's been great. Thank the Trek gods and Terry. Hashtag Star Trek Legacy. I know, right? It'd be great. Yeah. I'm glad you're liking it. 101 Johnny says, the return of Ultraman is actually Anasan's Ano-san, his favorite show, and it's part of the reason why he started the Shin series, all for his love of classic Ultraman. You know what? All the Shin stuff, Shin Godzilla, I love it. And Evangelion, the last Evangelion movie. Wow. Crazy. I missed did Brian say I missed Star Trek 3? I thought I said Star Trek 3. Did I not put it in there? Well, I would Star Trek 3 I would put after First Contact. Let's put it that way. Let's see. I'll read one more letter, and then I will wrap up this show. But remember, we are back. We are back at 9 p.m. with Midnight Musings. This last letter comes to me from, let's see, it's from, Mr. Noah Dingley. Mr. Noah Dingley writes in and says, Rob, I must say that I am saddened that you won't be on the John Campea Show daily, but I am excited that there's potentially going to be a daily Robservations coming our way. Yes, there will be. I love your intellect, way of viewing things, intolerance for BS, and love of all things cinema. You've hyped Picard Season 3 so much, I can't wait to watch it. Catching up on old Trek with my new bride so that we can watch it together. Most looking forward to more Riker, my favorite. I think if a couple of Treks together, they stay together, right? We'll have to see, won't we? Anywho, would love to chat with you one day, even interview you on my local SoCal radio show. Oh, I will, with the right topic if interested. Absolutely. Remember, even Tango Shalom is still streaming on Netflix and Peacock, or pardon me, on Amazon and Peacock. Regardless, keep up your great and amazing work at the head of the Burnettwork. You're appreciated here all so much. Live long and prosper, my friend. I was going to say love long and prosper. The robo producer, Noah. Well, Noah, that's a very nice letter. Yeah, I'll stream with you anytime on local radio. That would be a lot of fun. I won't swear, I promise. People have fired in a couple more super chats. Let me get to those. Alex, Jeff Yerke says, one more thing. Mildred Pierce fucking rocks. Yeah, and on 4K. Wow, I can't believe it. Our friend Alexander Wilson, how you doing? Since life has gotten back to normal, I haven't had time to watch any entertainment recently. What is out there that I should watch now besides Picard Season 3? Well, you got to see Creed 3 and John Wick 4, I would say. But there's so much good. You know what I watched, I have to say? I got to say, I've only seen 2 episodes of it, but I did watch Rabbit Hole, the Keanu Reeves, the Kiefer Sutherland show. I liked it so far. I don't know where it's going to go, but I enjoyed it. And I did watch the first episode of, I want to say it's The Night Manager. I don't think it's The Night Manager on Netflix. The FBI agent who's in the room answering the phone. I watched the first episode of that. Intriguing. Don't know where it's going to go, but I thought it was intriguing. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. Dustin Cole says, any info about Robert Beltran being shunned in the industry for his right-leaning politics, or is it just a rumor? I do not know. To be honest, I do not know. I mean, I've been a big fan of Robert Beltran's all the way back to Paul Bartel's movie, Eating Raoul. If you guys have never seen Eating Raoul, it's kind of more of an obscure culty movie now, but check it out. It was directed by the great Paul Bartel, Mary Warnoff, Robert Beltran. It's definitely something you guys need to see. But no, I mean, I know that a lot of people with left or right-leaning politics sometimes don't get along with a lot of people, and that's definitely a problem. But I haven't necessarily heard that about him per se. I really don't know. Joe Panora says, my favorite IPs, Star Trek, James Bond, and Highlander. Have you heard anything about the Highlander remake? No, just that they keep talking about making it. I haven't heard much. I don't know if it's going into production, but the way things are going these days, you might just open up Variety one day tomorrow or the next day or Monday or Tuesday. Highlander starts shooting with whomever. Was Henry Cavill supposed to be Connor McLeod? I don't know who is Connor McLeod, although I do love that new 4K disc they put out, I'll tell you that. But I don't know anything about it. Bert says, have you thought about doing a physical media show about comics and trade paperbacks? You have an amazing collection and have so much knowledge to share with your audience. You know, I've thought about it, but I don't know if it would sustain a show. And I don't buy enough. I want to buy more. But omnibuses, I mean, the ones I buy, they're always like $100, and it's tough. But yeah, I'd like. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Jake B sends in a super chat and says, hey, Rob, I just want to thank you for everything you do with the Post Geek Singularity and what you've done for a certain show. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you for that. But now I can come back here and do Robservations. You know, people have been so bummed. I was on a roll. I mean, I did basically, this is Robservations 839. I think I've only done like 39 Robservations since I started working for John. And I did 800 shows in 3 years. So it's crazy. I'd missed doing it. So it's nice to be back doing it. And it's fun. And I can concentrate more. What I want to do is, you know, like I'm doing Designing Hollywood. We have a new show that's starting called Architects of Imagination, where I'm not hosting it, but it's about video games. DJ is doing that, and I have an interview going up with DJ so you can meet him and find out exactly who he is. But we're going to be I want to do more interviews with people in the industry. I did a really interesting interview with a production sound mixer that's going to go up on Designing Hollywood yesterday. That was a fascinating interview. I really liked that. So, yeah. Nico says, "You're great as always, Rob. I was just wondering, what's your favorite Gaspar Noe film? Mine is Climax from 2018. Bar none, hands down, Enter the Void. Look, I own Irreversible in 4K. I can't even watch all that movie. It's so rough. But Gaspar Noe, incredible filmmaker. I do have the Arrow disc of Climax. I like Climax a lot. But Enter the Void, when I saw Enter the Void for the first time, it knocked my socks off. And I watched it. It's 3 hours long. As soon as it was over, it was like 4 a.m. I started the disc again. I love Enter the Void. Love it, love it, love it. So that's my favorite. Thoughts on fitness with Nigel. Or Nige. Thoughts on fitness with Nige. Says, will we ever see Star Trek like this ever again? I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. Again, I don't know. To bring it back home, I really don't understand why a Starfleet Academy series and the way they're talking about first loves, rivalries. I'm like, that isn't Star Trek. I mean, that is fundamentally, and they've been trying to do this since 2009. They've tried to turn Star Trek into a different franchise. I get it. They want it to make more money. They keep trying to go to this young audience. The young audience does not want to watch Star Trek. And I'll tell you something. If you know what a young audience wants to watch, they want to watch fucking Euphoria. And I understand why. You're trying to go after a young audience by making a Star Trek Academy show for 16-year-olds. Literally, that's what they're saying. They don't want to watch it. 16-year-olds today are 2 years away from starting OnlyFans accounts, and Euphoria has a lot more to say to them than a Starfleet Academy show does. And the Starfleet Academy show is going to be written, it's going to be even dumber. It's not going to be very adult, and it's going to be even more dumbed down. And that's what I fear, and it's going to be, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Bert says, the comic show could be about your favorite runs. That's not a bad idea. Well, okay, you know what I'll do, Bert? Since you brought it up, I will do, the new show that I'm going to do, RMB's 10 and 20. So it'll be the word 10 in 20 minutes. So it'll be 10 in 20. I can do that. I will do, because I want to do like my 10 favorite X-Men comics or my 10 favorite X-Men stories. God Loves Man Kills would be one of them. And I can do that. I think that's a really great idea. So I wouldn't do a show, but I'll do 10 and 20s about that, because then I can go like, here are my favorite Moon Knight comics, all from the first Bill Sienkiewicz run. No, that wouldn't be all true, but you never know. So anyway, but to bring it back home, look, the Starfleet Academy show, I think it's entirely needless. However, I will tune in. I just think, once again, they're trying to turn Star Trek into something it isn't. And I don't understand why they keep doing that. Why? Or if you're an Exorcist fan, why, Damie? Why do they do these things? I want to thank everyone for generously supporting this channel via super chats and tips. Ooh, let me check and make sure I don't miss any. I didn't look and see if because people throw in tips and I miss them. Yes. Anonymous. Oh, I know who this is. Wait, hang on. Ross, ROS, says, despite alluding to this person all the time, Critical Drinker let it slip that she doesn't appear. It's a shame. I imagine relationship with Seven is probably very testy. If there is a legacy series, I'd like that to be explored. Well, there was talk of that. There was talk of doing a show like that, but I don't know if that will happen. It says anonymous, but it's our favorite dad who has his son Braxton. Braxton says, asked, if I'm an 8-year-old kid, can I know what good Braxton asked, so Braxton's his son. Braxton says, if I'm an 8-year-old kid, and if an 8-year-old kid can know what good Trek is, why can't the grown-ups that are making it now? It's a very good question, Braxton. It's a very, very good question. I don't know what to tell you. I'll tell you why. Because the people that are making Star Trek, the reason Terry Matalas made great Star Trek is that he loves Star Trek. He loves Star Trek. And I think that that's what they need. I know that you don't necessarily, people say, well, Rob, people didn't even know, like Nicholas Meyer didn't know anything about Star Trek when he made Star Trek 2. I know, but he's a classical storyteller, and he's a very highly educated guy, so he got it. As a matter of fact, Eric Jedrinson, who wrote the Star Trek The Beginning script that they were going to make after Star Trek Enterprise until there was a regime change, here's another thing, to be perfectly honest. Eric Jedrinson, who's a supervising producer of Band of Brothers, was asked by, at the time, Donald DeLine and Carey McCluggage, who ran Paramount after Enterprise was over. They asked him to come in and write a script, to develop a new Star Trek script. He'd never seen Star Trek before either. He dove right into it. He wrote a script called Star Trek The Beginning, which is actually, and that was just a tentative title. There was only one draft ever written. But it's set about 8 years after the end of Enterprise, and it deals with the outbreak of the Romulan War, and it deals with the graduating class of Starfleet Academy. And it rocks. Now, it's a first draft script, but you read that script and it's like, it's really interesting. And the script opens with a regatta in San Francisco Bay, where they're sailing these hover catamarans, and it's a boat race to see who can win. And you meet all the cadets that way. It's great. It's everything that Paramount wants. They own the script. It'll never happen because no one gets any money for writing that script, because even though it needs a rewrite, you bring Jedrinson back in to do it. I mean, that's what Star Trek needs. It needs a writer like Eric Jedrinson, who's a supervising producer of Band of Brothers. That's what Star Trek needs. It doesn't need the showrunner from Nancy Drew. But I'm not trying to disparage her. I'm just saying she's not the right person for the job. She's not the right person for the job. If you want to make a show about 16-year-olds falling in first love, okay. Is that Star Trek? I don't know. Mike Castro says, oh, and thanks for retweeting me last week with the tweet about Picard Season 3 being like having worked with bad improv partners for 6 years and then finally someone stopping in who actually understands how to yes and. Mike, that was a great tweet. I think I said you won my internet for the week. That was a fantastic tweet, my friend. I loved it. Ross goes on to say, I felt there was a philosophical difference between Star Wars and Star Trek, which is only more lurid by when media stray from these axioms. Would you agree that when it comes to truth in Star Trek is ultimately knowable, but in Star Wars it's ultimately unknowable? That's a really interesting... Okay, so Ross is asking, here's the thing. When you're talking about truth, I assume you mean like the Force. But when it comes to truth, like truth of a person's character, I think both Star Trek and Star Wars share the same DNA. And I think that there is the cosmic infinitude, the universe itself is ultimately unknowable. As much as Star Trek is about trying to explore that unknowability, whereas Star Wars is about living with that unknowability. Where in Star Trek, we'll never live with it. We'll keep trying to explore. So, but I like that. I mean, that's truth in Star Trek is ultimately knowable, but in Star Wars, it's ultimately unknowable. I think certain truths. I think truth is about people are always knowable. People or entities, creatures, individuals. Call it individuals. But I like that idea. That's a really great idea. Let's see. Damn it, Spock, who's a member of the channel, says, hi, Rob, when are you planning a collection tour? It's coming up. I'm still moving stuff around, but it's coming up soon. It took me a year to hang these lights. I got colored gels. I've turned the Robservatory. It's not so much flashing lights. It doesn't look like a 16-year-old girl's bedroom anymore, but I'm still lighting it up. Now it looks more like you're outside at Disneyland, which is fine. I like that. And then finally, this will be the last one. Alexander Wilson says, Ryan Coogler spoke to Chris Carter about rebooting the X-Files. Hey, look, Ryan Coogler, I think, is an incredibly talented filmmaker. I love Fruitvale Station. I really like Creed. Of course, I like Black Panther. I think if he's got an idea, I think it's worth listening to. I was incredibly disappointed by the last 2 seasons, the rebooted seasons of X-Files. I think the X-Files could work now more than ever when we've got UAPs buzzing around and all kinds of the truth is not out there anymore. I think it could be absolutely fantastic. On that note, everybody, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for being a moderator. I want to thank Louise X. Sparrow for being a moderator. You guys are great. And I want to remind everybody that's a member of the channel, tomorrow at 11 a.m., we're having one of our bi-weekly member calls. People show up, you just raise your hand, you can say whatever you want, we chat, and they last for hours. So on that note, and I will be back in 3 hours right here for Midnight Musings with Lael and we'll see what happens tonight. And as Tom Jr. Jackson might say to everybody, we're all goof people. And as always, have a better night.